And I think the most important thing a bookkeeper can do is make a client feel like you care about their business. You care about their success. And your only purpose is to make sure that they're making more money.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. I'm your host, Michael Palmer. It's part 2 of our 2-part series with Tanya Fox. And in this conversation, she'll discuss how you can create terrific collaborations between your own clients, and she'll share the most important thing a bookkeeper can do for their client, plus much more. All right, let's go to that conversation. So now you've written this book. It's all about collaboration. People can hire you to help implement the strategies in the book and put this into their business. I'd love to maybe just spitball a bit you own a bookkeeping firm. What are some low-hanging fruits for our listener to do collaborations to grow their bookkeeping firms?
Yeah. So what we still do today, again, goes back to looking at who I had in my list, so my client list, and seeing if there was any way that, one, we could upsell them, because I would always try to sell to who was already giving me money first, especially in my bookkeeping company, because I'm like, they're low-hanging fruit. They already trust me. They're already giving me money. I don't have to convince them that I'm good. Like, I don't have to go through the dating process. We're married now,
Yes.
And so I would sit there and I would go, are there things that I can offer them that would generate more money for me and take stuff off? So we have a simple thing where we have a bill assessment. It's $100 a month, and we will actually go through and keep track of all of your bills and alert you if something is spikes or if something lowers, or, if there's this opportunity to lower your energy rates right now. Have you looked at this other company? And it was really easy to do that because we were already doing it. We were already entering this stuff. It would take us no more time to be able to do it. But it was something that was really valuable to the clients because they were like, yes, I would pay for that. So just looking at different ways, is there something that you are doing or is close to what you're doing that you can sort of upsell your current clients with? That's always where I start. And then I would look at the people that you have. What are they needing? What are they struggling with? What are the things that they're constantly saying, boy, I wish, I could find a supplier, here in the States? And can you connect two people together of your clients? Because a lot of times when I do collaborations, I sort of knock myself out of the collaboration because I'll be like, I can't work with you, or I don't want to work with you. Sometimes it's just like, that's just not where I am right now or what I want to do. But how can I connect you to somebody else? How can I be the collaboration connection between two of my clients together to get them working together, to get them doing something? Because what happens is, again, like we were saying before, the value comes back to you. Now I'm the go-to person, right? If I can be the go-to person, that's all I can ever ask for, because I know both of those people, when they have another problem, are going to come to me and go, okay, so I'm trying to do this. Can you help me? And sometimes I go, yep, I'm the person. You're gonna hire me to do that. Or sometimes I just connect them with somebody else. So the value in that is, and I think oftentimes bookkeepers don't think of that. They keep all of their clients sort of separate. They separate them, they're all individual, but really sort of connecting them together sort of helps to solidify and helps those clients to stay too, because they're getting more out of you. They're not just dropping a shoebox of paperwork off to you and getting a report that they never open at the end of the month.
It's very cool. It's very cool.
So, and it's just something, simple that sometimes we just don't think about, right?
That well, both of those are really great ideas, and the bill alert program. I mean, that's the value of that just on paper is far greater than $100 a month. I would think in many cases you could save them 10x that easily
Yeah.
over the year, and then getting clients together and making sure there's some sort of connection there. That's interesting as well. And what a way to build relationships and help foster connections. I mean, I've never heard of it positioned that way where, yeah, a bookkeeper would have 10, 20, 30 clients, right? Now,
Mhm.
and we live in this digital world where everybody's all over the place, but there are always people in your local territory for most people. They would have some that are in the local area, likely a handful of different industries. What a great idea just to get together. That drives value, right? People meet new people. There's opportunities just there's absolutely zero intentional collaboration, but that'll certainly, it's like a birthplace for collaboration, getting together, if you will.
Yeah.
Love that. And these are just ideas that, yeah, can lead to all sorts of opportunities. I also like that idea of remembering that your gain is not instant, right? It's not like a transaction. It's I've connected these two people, and come what may, good things will happen. You get to be, number one, you get to be the go-to person, but as well, people see you differently. It's almost unimaginable as to what could happen by driving that kind of value. And it was lost in my head. I was trying to bring it in, and I think I got a hook into it, is Ivan Meisner with the BNI was on the podcast, and he often says giver's gain, right?
Yeah.
It's like, don't go in looking to
Absolutely.
get, go in looking to give. And eventually the giver gains through that
Yeah.
long-term relationship.
And the truth is like, I always thought, even from my very first bookkeeping client, the more I make them successful, the more money I make, because I'm
Yes.
just going to keep going with them. So if they know, or if they believe that I was the person that helped them with that success, then they stay with me. And I have the majority of my clients right now have been with me for over 15 years. And it got a lot easier because they don't question. There isn't that initial, like, they know what to ask me. They know where my boundaries are. They know my work. So it's a lot easier for my whole team because there's that trust that's been built over the years. And so,
Yes.
and also what happens is it helps. So as they started making more money, they needed more of our time. Their bills were getting higher. Their contracts were getting bigger. We were growing with them. And so I would always be like, our goal is to make them as rich as possible. And we are just going to ride their coattails up, because as a bookkeeper, that's what you do. You are riding your client's success up. So what are the things that we can do to help them be more successful, more than just data entry and putting stuff into a computer? And it's usually the simplest things. I always thought it would be like the huge monumental when we saved them tens of thousands of dollars, but it wasn't. It was the small things of going, hey, like your water bill has been going up quite a bit. Is there something going on with this? Like, are you using more? And, I remember when I said that to one owner, and he goes, I didn't even know, because he's not in the restaurant all the time. He goes, I didn't even know we had a running toilet.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, well, no, I was just noticing. I thought maybe it was something you could check. Now, I had previous experience because this had happened before, and that's what it was. Something was running. They didn't know about it. There was a leak in the wall or whatever. And so it was that experience to go, hey, you might want to check if you've got a leak somewhere, blah, 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 because I noticed your water bill is going up. So he was like, oh my God. Now, to me, I was like, it was simple, whatever. I saved him $100 on the next bill. To him, however, when he discovered the problem, it would have been tens of thousands of dollars had it continued on, I guess, the plumber. And of course, I connected him with a plumber who was also a client of mine. I know somebody who can come in and fix that for you. He's a client of mine. And of course, the plumber was like, oh, it was a good thing Tanya told you about this, because this would have leaked and broken the wall, and it would have been tens of thousands of dollars. So at the time, I was like, I saved him $100. But later down the road, very short down the road, he saw the value. Again, his assessment, my assessment was $100. His assessment was $10,000. So
beautiful.
it just sort of solidified that sort of relationship. And I think the most important thing a bookkeeper can do is make a client feel like you care about their business. You care about their success. And your only purpose is to make sure that they're making more money. Because that's what they want, right? Like anybody who's in business, that's what we want, is to make more money. So if you can make the client feel like, hey, I'm here to make sure that you make as much money as you possibly can. And it's just these little things that will build up that help you build that trust, that help you build, that relationship, that help you, and then when you go to that person and you want to do, say, a larger collaboration with them, they're more likely to say yes because they know you're out for their best interest. So it just sort of makes everything down the road a lot easier. Now, when I go to these clients who've been with me for 15, 20 years and I'm like, hey, I have this harebrained scheme of this collaboration that I want to try. They're like, yep, sign me up. And I'm like, no, let me tell you about it. And they're like, no, it's fine. Yeah, I'm in. So it's great to sort of, but that didn't happen overnight. That was building that trust and that relationship. That was, also putting the right people on my team that were also doing that and letting, and making that feeling of they're one of the team, they're here for me. And now it makes my job a lot easier when I come up with these harebrained collaborations that I'm like, let's see if we can get 20 restaurants to work together that are all competition. A lot of them were like, yeah, sign me up. It's good. It's in. And then it was easy. Cool. Now I have 5, 6 on my side. I go to a new restaurant. I'm like, hey, I've got these other 5. And then they're like, oh, 5 of them said yes. Oh, okay. I don't have to give them the backstory that they're all my clients. So it's just interesting how it all kind of snowballs together. And sometimes we only see it at the end. And that's where people usually will bring me in. That's where usually I get hired. They're like, I feel like I have something great, but I don't know how to connect the dots. But I know that there's something there. I can see those dots because I'm not, right in it. And so you don't have to hire me to do that. You can even just have somebody who is also an entrepreneur and say, hey, can you kind of come in? I have like this idea. Who do you think I could work with? Because it's easier for somebody on the outside to be like, I don't know, this guy I think would work really good. We get too invested in our own business, and I still do it. I have my coach come in and go, I want to do this. Who do you think I could work with? And she's able to sort of see everything from an outsider perspective. There's no emotion attached to it. I have emotion attached when I'm looking at my business.
And I think there's a skill set around being able to see those things and how to execute on them, and also help people get over their limiting beliefs of what people might think or be able to do. It's like anything. A coach is someone who can help get over all of those roadblocks and actually bring it to fruition. Whereas people trying to do things on their own often get stuck for some reason. Yeah. And that's what hiring a coach can accelerate that for them.
And I will say, like, one of the biggest things I always get, especially if I'm dealing with clients, for coaching for bookkeeping or sort of in that industry, a lot of times they'll say, I'm not a creative person. Like bookkeepers and accountants aren't known, which is not true, but the stereotype of them is that they're not kind of known for being, like I am, animated, right. And, they're just a little bit more of introverts. But a lot of them will say, I'm not a creative person, so I don't really feel like I could do collaborations because I just don't have that skill set. And I always say to them, you don't have to be creative. You are, and we always hear out of the box thinker. I talk about it in the book. People say, I'm not an out-of-the-box thinker. And I go, oh, but you are. So to everybody who's listening, if you have ever used a cup, a drinking glass to hold pens, if you have ever, I'm going to date myself back in the years, but, I remember using a shower curtain as like a bedroom curtain, or if you could find like a milk crate, that could be a coffee table, an end table. Like there were so many things, you could do on your first apartment. That's all thinking outside of the box. But we don't think of it that way. We just think, no, I needed a cup, so I put a pen in it. But as soon as you use something for something else besides its intended purpose, that's thinking outside of the box. And I think sometimes people just need to be reminded, you do not have to come up with the next cure for cancer. It doesn't have to be something monumental. You don't have to, invent the next wheel. You don't have to create the next rocket that's going to take humans to live on Mars. It can be something really simple. So I often say to people, and I have the exercise in my book, here's a simple exercise you can do to just start training yourself to see things. And that could be simply just walking around and picking an object and saying, picking a pencil and saying, how can I use this pencil for something besides writing? And try to come up with 5 things. You could use it as a drumstick. You could use it as a ruler. All of these things that people go, oh, yeah, I could think of stuff like that. That's thinking outside of the box. So it's just a muscle that you have to build. So the more you start doing that, the more you will start seeing it. And I always tell people too, think about when you buy a car. You buy a car, you've never seen your car before, you've never seen the color. You start driving and that car is everywhere. All of a sudden, you start seeing that car, that color. It's like everybody all of a sudden went to the dealership at the same time as you. The truth is the car's always been, and I think it's called like the Meinhof theory or something like that. There is a name for it, but the car has always been out there, but you're just more aware to it because now you own one, right? So you're paying more attention when you see it. The same thing goes with collaboration. The same thing goes with thinking outside of the box. As soon as you start trying to pay attention to it, eventually you'll just start seeing it everywhere. And you'll be like, that's outside of the box. That's outside of the box. That's a collaboration. That's a collaboration. Because it's easier to see because you're actually searching for it.
It's beautiful. Yeah. The reticular activation system is the part of the brain that associates, you think of red, you see red.
Right.
And I think it's when you don't do it, so with collaborations, just identifying where they are, I think you see things that you didn't see before. And in this scenario, for bookkeepers especially, it's where the opportunity lies in what you can't
Correct.
see. And so great advice and great exercises to grab from the book. And I would imagine I find that people are trying to be original. It's got to be original. But people are doing great things all the time. You've given us a whole bunch of ideas that are not original per se.
Yeah.
You came up with them, but there's no reason why someone else can't try it, use it, grab it, build on it, whatever the case may be, and that's a collaboration in itself, right?
Yeah.
Very cool.
And I love that analogy because I always say to people, like, there's no such thing as original anymore. Like everything's been done if we really think about it. But that doesn't make movies that they put out any less great. Like we still enjoy them. But if we were to pick them apart, we would be like, I can find 7 other movies that were done beforehand that were similar to this, right? That have this storyline or whatever. The same thing with books, the same thing, look at Hallmark movies. If you want a really good example, like there is the joke that, haven't we watched this movie? And, no, it's different. No, they're all exactly the same. It doesn't make people love them any less. It's one of the highest grossing movies that are out there. I mean, people love them. Same movie, same thing, same plot, same layout. It doesn't have to, and that's just it. It doesn't have to be the next invention. Look at what you're already doing right now. And is there a tweak that you can do? Can you just do something a little bit different? Can you offer something else? Are you using all of your, if you are fortunate to have a team, are you asking them, what do you really love to do? What are you passionate about? Is there something else that you want to try? Because a lot of times we forget that collaboration can happen inside your organization too, with your employees. They're the best ones to collaborate with.
Yes.
So, really just, asking those questions, what do you love to do? What have you always wanted to try? And it might take a few times because people kind of are a little standoffish. Usually when anybody new on my team is like, what? I don't know. I guess like water skiing. Like it's always, but, just keep trying and keep those areas open because somebody who comes into your business with fresh eyes is the best person to run things by because they, again, don't have that emotion. They don't know the bigger picture. So they'll come up with ideas that you might be like, well, we tried that, it didn't work, or whatever the case may be. But I always say there's no such thing as a stupid question, except for the one that you don't ask. And there's no such thing as a bad idea. It might not work right now, but it doesn't necessarily make it bad. There are some collaborations that I thought of 10 years ago that I was like, this is a horrible idea, that I've now implemented and done, and it was super successful. It wasn't bad at the time. I just didn't have the skill set or the people in place to actually make it happen. So never discount them.
For sure. It's another thought on it didn't work. It didn't work is not necessarily the case. It may have worked if there was a subtle change to it, or tried again, or retried. If it's worked for somebody else, it can work for anyone. Maybe not in exactly the same formula, but it can work. And I think that's often people give up too early on certain things. Haven't talked to enough people about it, or put it in enough places. And that's, it's knowing when to keep going and knowing when to stop. And I think you brought up trusting your gut, right? It's thinking about that intuition and listening to the intuition on, hey, is this a way to go? Should I try this again? Is very valuable, I think, for a business owner.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing. Whenever we're doing anything, and it's still to this day, I do collaborations that don't work. They fail temporarily. And that's what I say. It failed temporarily, but are we going to rebuild? Let's rebuild it. Let's figure out what didn't work, why it didn't work, and then let's just rebuild it into something else. So, I always think of ideas as Lego. Individually they don't work, but just take it apart and then build something else. You can build a dog, take Lego apart, and it could be a house. And then you can take it apart and then you can rebuild it into, a weapon. Like, there's so many different things you can do with it. So it's not about letting it go. Sometimes it's just about deconstructing it a little bit and sort of tearing it down to a point where you're like, okay, we need to work with it. And this is where communication is really important. Are you talking to that other person and saying, what do you think worked and what do you think didn't work? Those check-ins are really important to constantly have, so you don't get to a point where it feels like it's a colossal failure where you want to give up. If you can sort of hit that point and notice it beforehand where you're like, something about this doesn't feel right, you can fix it before it crashes and burns. So check in to make sure that you're going, is the fire still in the fire pit? Or have we gone a little off course now? And then you can regather. And by doing that and always doing that, I've been able to save a lot of things that were on fire. I was able to sort of tame the fire down a little bit, rebuild, and then we were able to do something. And sometimes that is walking away. Sometimes that is going, we don't work well together, but, we're going to stop it at a point before either one of us have hurt feelings. So sometimes the walk away is the success part of it.
Mm-hmm. Is there any, what are the big things that work for collaborations and won't work for collaborations that people should be thinking about?
I would say anything can work. I've done some weird collaborations together. And for a lot of times it becomes a party trick that people will try to throw two names at me. How can these two opposing companies work together? So I think that you can make anything work in this world. Eventually, you can sort of make it work. So don't limit yourself to it. But what I think is really important is making sure that when you go to start collaborating with someone, you should always have an idea in your head, right? You have this sort of rough idea of how you want to work with them, what this is going to look like, So if I was going to collaborate with you, Michael, I would have an idea already in my head that I'm going to pitch this idea to you. But what I'm very careful of doing is saying, what do you think? If I can get you to go, well, what if? I always say to everybody, when you're doing a collaboration, if the other person goes, what if we did, then I'm like, done. That to me is $, sold, put the stamp on it, because now you're invested in this idea. You're willing to work with me. So the most important thing in collaboration is to be open that the original idea you had might completely pivot, because the other person is like, yes, I want to work with you, but I don't want to do that. or that doesn't feel comfortable to me, or that's not what I want to offer you on my end. So it's really making sure that you're open and being willing to change it so that it works for the both of you. And just work to get that buy-in. If you can get them talking and going, well, what if we did this, or what if we did that? That is where now you can do something. So don't create so big of an idea that you are stuck and that, you put blinders on. That this collaboration, me working with you, means it has to go this way. This is the storyline. I've already written it. You just have to come in. Because you also then have no buy-in from that other person. They now feel like they're just working for you. It's your idea. It's not theirs. And growth then becomes really hard. And I would say the second thing is that communication. Make sure you're constantly checking in with that person. There's always going to be, when you do a collaboration, usually the person who initiates it is what I call the lead. So whoever is the lead should always be checking in and going, hey, how are things going for you? How are you feeling about this? Did you get, this specific thing, this task done that you were supposed to? Make sure you're having that communication and you're constantly checking in. It's easier to fight the fires if you know that they're starting to smolder than when they're full blown and you're like, oh my God, we're 2 weeks away. You did nothing that you were supposed to do. And now all of a sudden I have all of these new tasks. So just keeping that communication open, checking in, letting them know that you're going to be checking in with them is really the most important thing, I would say.
Yeah, this is exciting. I think that a bookkeeping firm owner could just focus on collaborations and not want for work. When you get a few decent collaborations, we always talk about the relationship between the bookkeeper and an accountant or a tax accountant. The relationships and the needs and everything that has to happen. It's such a well-baked potential collaboration that it's almost a proven guaranteed, if you find the right people, that it'll be good for both parties. But there's so many other collaborations that can be done, bring some creativity to it and come out of it with both parties getting a lot of value out of doing something together.
And referrals are the biggest thing. Like for bookkeepers, referrals are your bread and butter because they're the easiest ones to do. So make sure you're keeping that communication open. Anytime I send any of our bookkeeping clients to the accountant, I make sure I say to them, and make sure you tell them I'm the one who sent you. And sometimes I've even said, you get better treatment. I don't know if they do, but they'll feel like they do for throwing my name out there. And I hope I work with enough accounting firms that I've worked with them long enough that I know they give everybody great service. It's not that my clients are getting it any more. They just do great service generally. But I'll always say that to them because it's really important. But then when we have a space or we're looking for new clients, those are the first people I go to is the accountants and go, hey, listen, we've got a couple of spaces that are opening up. If you have anybody who's looking, let us know. And so make sure you're building on that relationship. Make sure that you're letting people know, hey, I'm sending somebody to you. And I always follow it up too. If I've referred somebody, I say, hey, just letting you know, I referred this person to you. If they happen to come across your desk, just know it's one of my clients. The other thing that happens is because I've known them so long, sometimes I will ask the accounting companies and I'll do a collaboration with them. So if I'm sending you a client, will you give them a discounted rate? Because you know my work. You know you're not going to have to reassess stuff. You know there's not going to be stuff missing. My quality of work. So is there a way that we can offer a little bit of a discount? So beautiful. I will give you the referral of the client. And for that, so instead of you paying me a referral fee, the client gets the discount. So I'm not getting any money out of it, but what I am getting is my client is now super happy with me because I'm like, let them know I sent you. You do get a special rate with me if you work with them. It's something that's really simple. But then again, when I go back to that client to refer them to somebody else, again, they're like, oh yeah, for sure. You saved me money last time. Absolutely. Who do you want me to work with? What plumber, what handyman, what supplier, send me anybody, So it's just thinking of, are there small ways? And again, discounts don't have to be huge to matter to people. 10% off when nobody's expecting it is wonderful. Think about any time you've signed out, bought anything. And then they're like, oh, it was cheaper when you get through the cash. You're like, oh, score, win,
Yes,
right?
beautiful.
But it's like 5% deal. Like it's not really a lot of money, but it's exciting to get that. So
That's right.
again, it doesn't have to be ginormous. It could be a $50 gift card to somewhere.
That's right. You feel like a winner when it's like, it's like a lottery win.
Yeah.
You got $3 off. Oh my, really? That's great.
Yeah, that's fantastic. The other thing that I've done too,
$2,000 bill, it still feels good.
Right. Is I've collaborated with all of my clients and I've said, hey, like we're pooling together to do like a fun Christmas giveaway or whatever. Is there one item that you can give me? So when you have 20 or 30 people, so what I would do is we would do this like fun gift exchange with all of our clients every year. We would send them something, but I never paid for it. All the clients sent me one item, like, what is your favorite item or favorite service? Or it would be like a coupon or a gift certificate or whatever. And sometimes I would usually say, try to make it something from your business. But everybody got advertised, but we would package it up and wrap it and gift wrap it. And then we would give it to each client. So I was getting to give Christmas gifts to all of my clients and spending zero money. And all of my clients were getting exposure because they all got a gift back.
Wow. That's great.
So that was like a simple thing for me to do. And everybody loved it. Every year they're like, I want to know what now keep a list so you don't keep giving the same person the same thing. But we would get all of it in and then we would be like, oh, let's like introduce this person and that person. And again, I was very strategic about who I was gifting what to. Because there would be sometimes I'd be like, I want to do a collaboration between these two people, but I need to expose them to each other. So I would use that as my exposure. Because inside of it too, I would write like, was donated for this from this company. This is what they're all about. This is the owner, whatever. I'd put a little card in that would describe it. So, and we still do it to this day. I've been doing it now for 15 years.
Wow.
And it's always fun. And now that people know where it's coming from, the gifts sometimes get quite big in what people send because they're like, I know what's happening here. I know what you're doing. So right. But that's a simple, fun thing that you can do that is giving you exposure, but isn't costing you anything and giving your clients exposure. And it's just a donation for them.
Fantastic. Wonderful ideas. I think it would be really fantastic for our listener. Get out there, buy your book and start thinking about this, implementing it into their business, and maybe even working with you to help them do it. What's the best way for them to learn more about you, get access to the book or any resources that you might have about it?
Just heading to my website. So it's foxtalksbusiness.com. And there you can find everything. You can find the podcast, the book, how to work with me. We're just in the midst of, again, we're redecorating the website. So you'll see some construction happening, but there's all different kinds of resources and stuff like that. And at any time, people can just reach out on the contact page. I'm the one who answers all of it on social media. I answer all of the messages. It's not staff. So yeah, just reach out with your questions. I love them because it gives me context and it gives me content as well.
Amazing. Well, this has been a real pleasure. I want to thank you for your generosity and coming on the show and sharing what you know with our listener.
Oh, it's been a pleasure, Michael. And I love your show and I so enjoy listening to episodes. So keep doing them, please.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. A fantastic conversation with Tanya. A big thank you to her for being on the show. And I hope you, the listener, receive some value from our conversation. And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. To learn more about today's wonderful guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.